They're not really listening to understand at all. They're really listening just enough so that they can come back with whatever they're going to say. In fact, while you're speaking, they're scripting what they're about to say back. In fact, some people say they could finish your sentence, and when they say that to me, I go, oh, really? Because most of the time, I don't even know what the end of my sentence is. How could you? Right? So most people are listening just to answer instead of listening to understand. So we want to always be practicing listening to understand somebody. Now, we all know that we can use active listening skills in order to confirm what we're hearing, right? What I hear you say is this. And giving it back to the person in your own language to make sure that there's communication that's like-minded, like Jamie did earlier. Let me say this back in my language, make sure I got it, right? We always should be doing that because we just never really quite know. You know, if I gave you all crayons and paper and said, okay, everybody draw a stove, you would all draw something different, but yet they're all stoves. So just because I'm talking about something does not mean that the other person knows what it is. You might think you know, but then time might yield something different. So the whole idea is to listen to understand. So you might have questions, or you might want to give feedback along the way in any conversation that says, well, is this what I'm hearing? Or let me make sure I understand you. There's a lot of ways to say it. One of the best ways to handle it if you're in a conversation with somebody that is going a little too fast, or you feel yourself going too fast, or you just want to practice listening to understand it, is what I call the 5-second rule. Do you all know what that is? The 5-second rule means that when someone stops speaking, you count to 5, and then you answer. And then when you get done, in theory, if you're practicing with somebody, then they will count to 5 and then answer. But it immediately helps pace a conversation if you don't come right in on the back end, even if you know what you're going to say, even if it's a simple little conversation. To take a breath, maybe, that's about 5 seconds, right? Mm-hmm. And give time and space and air. You know, like my mom was a musician, and she always said the beauty of the music is not the notes, it's the space between the notes. And so it's the space and the honoring of that connection that really allows for an understanding. And we have to be aware that most people, and even us sometimes, aren't in the place of understanding. We're in the place of get the message out, get my point heard, get you to agree with me, and if you're not going to agree with me, it doesn't matter because I'm going to railroad over you, or I'm going to try to manipulate or convince or cajole, or just keep talking and keep talking and keep talking and keep talking until you finally either give in or leave. And so people who usually who use their voice properly are listening to understand. That's a big part of your voice, is your listening skills. So like in the exercise we did earlier, right? You were listening with all of you. And that's why there was no talking back. That's why I said no dialogue. So that you could just hear what the other person was saying. And then at the end, when I said, tell me what you heard, nobody started giving me these long dissertations. What you heard was whatever the connection was, right? So if I recorded it, if I would have voice recorded it, there was probably a lot of things you didn't say back that was said that you didn't note, right? Because you were listening for things that resonated with yourself for whatever reason, or maybe depending on the person's eyes or the way their voice tone or what keyed into you, right? And all of that is exactly perfect because you were listening to understand. You were listening to hear the person. So it's very important that we really pay attention to doing that as much as we possibly can. Always be understanding. If ever you catch yourself going so fast, remember we covered the part about anxiety and ramped up? Whenever you feel yourself like trying to jump in and finish the sentence or get part of it, even if you're excited and it's a really good conversation, you're in that dialogue, it's real important at that point to take a breath and just slow it right down. Because if I'm not listening to understand you, I'm going to miss the message. Especially if it's somebody or something that has a lot of facets to it. Because sometimes the things that seem real simple aren't as simple as you think. So we want to make sure that we're practicing. So we're going to do a little practice now, okay? Y'all willing?